The JDM D16A is a spec of D-series engine that seems to have a lot of confusion around it online. It can be found in both VTEC and non-VTEC versions and are widely available at JDM importers all over at the moment. Now, I bought the non-VTEC version of this engine, but I have had a lot of comments lately on my Instagram as well as YouTube, with people telling me that all I have to do to add VTEC to my current engine is throw on a VTEC solenoid. Can it really be that simple? Are both the VTEC and non-VTEC versions of this engine literally the same on the inside? Just with one, Honda decided to cut out the VTEC solenoid? Do JDM importers really not know what they have when it comes to this engine? Why do they charge different prices for VTEC and non-VTEC versions then? I wanted to find out. So here's my D16A all mounted up in the EG, and here's my other two engines, a Y8 and a Z6. So clearly on the back of both of these engines, we see the VTEC solenoid. One there, one there. But here on the back of the D16A, we see this block-off plate where the VTEC solenoid would go. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at my Y8 VTEC engine first. And I don't know about to you guys, but one of the first things I notice is the very top of this valve train assembly here. It looks noticeably different compared to the D16A. You look down in there, you can see that that little pin right there is touching this third rocker arm that's on each of these cylinders. Once this thing reaches the right oil pressure, the ECU senses that you're in the VTEC engagement zone. It shoots oil through this rocker assembly. This third rocker right here on each one of these cylinders is going to shoot those two pins out. It's going to connect this whole assembly. What then happens is that this camshaft here, everything is going to switch over to this center lobe. Whereas at low RPM, low engine speed, we're going to be using these normal two rockers with each of the lobes on either side of that middle one for the cam. Once VTEC engages, boom, everything connects together. We're then using the high lift, high duration profile on that cam there, and everything is working together. Now, crucially, the D16A does not have this center rocker here. On the D16A, you see here, it just has these standard two rocker arms. So there's not that third one in the middle. So the whole valve train is different than what you see on the Y8. And so not only is that the case with the two rocker arms and the third one being missing on the D16A, but that also means that the camshaft is going to be different. The camshaft in the D16A is not going to be set up for VTEC. You see here how we have the two lobes on either side, and then this center one for when VTEC engages. The D16A camshaft is only going to have those two lobes. It's not going to have this center lobe, only the standard two. So unfortunately, when it comes to this D16A, it is not VTEC ready. And believe me guys, I really wanted it to be. When I was at the JDM importer, I was like, is it really gonna be this simple? Just throw on a VTEC solenoid? It has to be that Honda just used this head casting for a few different D-series engines. It had to have been just the D16A VTEC or non-VTEC, right? And when you think about that, that makes a lot of sense. From a manufacturing point of view, use the same head casting. Just throw a block-off plate on one, that way you don't have to totally remake a head casting for essentially the same engine. But so the valve train is definitely different between the D16A and the Y8. So that does bring up yet another point of, I could just go ahead and take my Y8 head and put it on this D16A. That is definitely an option, and a lot of you guys have brought it up. The perfect mini-me swap, right? I've already got a nice bottom end with the D16A, low mileage, a nice freshened up Y8 head, put that thing on there, man, that'd be awesome. VTEC right there, right? And I've even got those ARP head studs, so I can reuse those things. I'm pretty sure that would work for a D16A, but I'd have to look into it more. Adding a VTEC head to my non-VTEC D16A engine here is something that I get questioned about quite a lot now, ever since I got this new engine. And for good reason, right? Everyone wants a VTEC engine, I get that. Even if it is a D-series. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll remember that I got this D16Y8 head refreshened at a shop called Advanced Cylinder Heads near me. They did a great job. I'm so happy with how it came out. Really, all they did was go in and freshen the thing up. All they had to do was install new exhaust valve guides. Everything else looked good. It just needed a real good deep clean, put back together real nice. They actually did a 3-angle valve job on this thing, so it was, you know, supposed to move a little bit more air.
High RPMs, lots of air, hell of abuse. It's gonna take it.
That's what we like.
It's ready.
So of course, a lot of people are saying, you know, dude, you have the perfect setup for like a mini-me. Go ahead and take that Y8 head, throw it on the D16A. As I mentioned, I already have those ARP head studs. They should just fit right on over. So I could use the D16A short block, put the Y8 head on it. I've already got the ECU tuned, ready for the Y8. It should be perfect, right? Let me tell you why I don't want to do that. And this is going to be probably one of those things where you either agree or you think it's the stupidest thing in the world. So I got that Y8 head freshened up and I put it back on a block that was older. To me, in my mind, I would actually be doing the same exact thing again. And that just seems wrong. Like, what is the definition of insanity? Like doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result, right? Like I can't do that, you guys. I got that Y8 head freshened up. Everything was nice and sealed. You know, the valves were going to make a proper seal. The head was leveled, so it was going to make a super good seal. That thing was going to be moving more air. So it was going to be forcing the cylinders down harder than what they were before when the head was not freshened up. So what I'm trying to get to is that with a Y8 head freshened up and the bottom end of a D16A still having its mileage on it, granted this is supposed to be a lower mileage engine, but even still, it's gonna have a certain amount of wear and tear on it that a rebuilt engine won't have. So I'm putting a freshened up Y8 head on an older D16A block. I'm really worried that I would start to run into those same type of problems again. I've seen people again and again putting VTEC heads over on the short block that's been in their car forever, and it just works fine. They drive it to work or they just use it as a street car and everything works fine. My opinion of this is that when you're using it for what I'm trying to do, which is track use only, where you're just living between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM for 20, 30 minutes at a time, I don't think the carryover is the same. When I put that freshened up Y8 head on the older Y8 bottom end, it really exaggerated the problems of the Y8 bottom end. So I think piston rings were going out on that Y8 bottom end that I had. And with the freshened up cylinder head, man, it really exaggerated those problems. My engine started burning oil like a madman, and it did not do that before. So I don't know, man. You know, I really have a feeling that if I put this Y8 head on the D16A block, the same thing's gonna happen. Whether it's burning oil or coolant or, you know, who knows? I just really think to get the most out of using that Y8 VTEC head, I would need the bottom end of the D16A to be gone through as well. I would need everything freshened up, essentially a full engine rebuild. That way you know you're not gonna run into these stupid problems like burning oil or burning coolant and possibly having cooling issues. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that. You know, you guys let me know what you think. When you're using these engines like we are at the track, and like I said, you're living between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM, man, you know, it really shows the weak points of engines pretty quick. And, you know I'm using a D series engine. It's quote unquote not supposed to be able to race like that, right? So I don't know, man. I really think that a whole engine would need to be gone through to be up to the task of going out on track. When I was buying this engine, Adam, this guy at the JDM importer, he's worked with these engines quite a bit. He sells them all day long. And what he was wondering and telling me is he'd like to see someone take a valve train out of like a Y8, for example, and see if it just switches over to the D16A. That way you could potentially get past doing a head swap, right? And on this guy, you know, the head gasket's already done. I don't know if I really want to go that route myself. I don't really want to test that, but I think that could be a viable option. Think about it, you know, all the valve train guts of a Y8, you just go ahead and put in the D16A. That should essentially be the same idea as doing a Y8 head swap, right? And then of course, taking the block-off plate off and putting the VTEC solenoid on.